Imagine it's the middle of the afternoon, the sun is high, and you go to turn on the lights. But nothing happens. No lights, no water pump, not even a fridge hum. Empty shelves greet you at the store. This is the harsh reality of economic collapse facing some countries in 2024. And today we'll break down 13 countries that could collapse in 2024. We'll explore the reasons behind these struggles and what the future might hold. Ready to get started? Let's go. Number 1. Nigeria. Imagine the frustration of living in a country where the lights go out multiple times a year. In Nigeria, 2024 has already seen 6 power grid collapses, leaving millions in the dark. This highlights a deeper issue, which is a lack of reliable electricity, which hinders economic development. Nigeria also carries a heavy debt burden. Nearly 30% of government revenue goes towards servicing existing loans, leaving less for crucial investments in infrastructure and social programs. This creates a vicious cycle where limited resources prevent improvements that could generate more income. Despite being an oil-rich nation, Nigeria's wealth distribution is deeply unequal. The benefits of the oil industry haven't trickled down to everyone. Efforts to transition to cleaner energy sources and eliminate fuel subsidies could further strain the most vulnerable populations. Poor government management has amplified these problems. Oil theft and refinery issues are a constant drain on national revenue, further crippling the economy. Skilled professionals, frustrated by the situation, are leaving the country in search of better opportunities, a phenomenon known as brain drain. This exodus deprives Nigeria of valuable expertise needed to drive economic growth. With all these challenges combined, Nigeria's economy is in a difficult spot. Economists use a number called the Gross Domestic Product, or GDP, to measure how much the entire Nigerian economy produces in a year. Experts predict a critical rise in the debt to GDP ratio, reaching nearly half at 46.6% of the country's total output in 2024 and climbing even higher at 46.8% by 2025. This means for every dollar Nigeria produces, nearly half a dollar goes towards servicing its debt. Number 2. Lebanon. After years of hyperinflation, debt default, and crippled public services, the World Bank cautiously predicted a modest economic recovery for 2024. However, this fragile optimism has been shattered by the rising tensions and potential conflict with Israel. The root of Lebanon's woes lies in its financial crisis. The Lebanese currency has taken a nosedive, losing over 90% of its value in recent years. This has caused widespread poverty and social unrest as people struggle to afford basic necessities. Further compounding the problems, the Lebanese banking system is essentially frozen. Think of your savings account being locked and inaccessible for everyday needs. With a potential war looming on the horizon, any hope for economic recovery in Lebanon seems further out of reach. The country faces a critical crossroads, and only time will tell if it can navigate these turbulent waters and find a path towards stability. Now, real quick, before we move to 3, hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you never miss a new video from us. And also, make sure to hit that like button. Number 3. Venezuela. Venezuela's economy has been in turmoil for years, facing a severe crisis marked by hyperinflation. This hyperinflation crisis in Venezuela has been ongoing since 2016, with the average inflation rate estimated to be around 200% in 2024. This staggering inflation has been fueled by the government's decision to print more money to cover its expenses, rather than addressing the underlying economic issues. Printing money might seem like a quick fix, but it comes with serious consequences. As more money is pumped into the economy, its value decreases, leading to a vicious cycle of rising prices and diminishing purchasing power for ordinary citizens. The long-term decline of Venezuela's economy is also rooted in mismanagement, corruption, and over-reliance on oil exports. This economic instability has created a humanitarian crisis, with millions of people struggling to afford food, medicine, and other basic necessities. The situation in Venezuela serves as a stark reminder of the devastating impact that economic mismanagement can have on a country and its people. Additionally, consumer price inflation in Venezuela averaged 9,032.8% in the 10 years leading up to 2022, well above the Latin America regional average of 8.4%. The 2022 average figure was 186.7%. Number 4. Ukraine. Ukraine finds itself in a precarious economic situation, largely stemming from its ongoing conflict with Russia. This conflict has not only led to human suffering, but has also brought severe economic hardship on the country. Ukraine's national debt is on a concerning trajectory, projected to increase significantly over the coming years, reaching a new peak by 2028. Additionally, economic project the economy is expected to contract by 35%. This contraction is compounded by a decreased workforce resulting from the displacement of 7 million refugees and internally displaced people. The need for reconstruction is crucial, with over $100 billion required to rebuild infrastructure devastated by war. Economic projections paint a grim picture, with a substantial contraction of the economy expected, along with a decrease in the workforce due to millions of refugees and internally displaced people. poverty levels could soar, with projections suggesting that as much as 60% of the population could fall below the poverty line. Despite efforts to stimulate recovery, Ukraine's economic outlook remains uncertain. The pace of recovery is expected to slow, reflecting ongoing challenges such as labor shortages and agricultural disruptions. Ukraine's growth, which is highly dependent on economic aid from America, is forecast to slow to 3.2% in 2024. Number 5. Tunisia. Tunisia is facing a substantial budget deficit of nearly 10%, compounded by a high public sector wage bill. The panic in 2020 and the fallout from the conflict in Ukraine have placed immense strain on the Tunisian economy. The country is teetering on the brink of a financial crisis, with external accounts managing to hold up moderately well in 2023, but the overall macroeconomic situation remains exceedingly fragile. To address its economic challenges, Tunisia is engaged in negotiations with the International Monetary Fund for a loan contingent upon implementing contentious reforms. These reforms, which encompass wage freezes, hiring freezes, subsidy cuts, and privatization measures, have encountered resistance from worker unions. The potential implementation of these reforms raises concerns about the possibility of social unrest within the country. Furthermore, Tunisia's economy has been further battered by the repercussions of the conflict in Ukraine, leading to heightened import costs for essential goods and exacerbating pre-existing economic woes. This has resulted in shortages of basic commodities such as milk, cereals, and red meat, compounding the nation's economic hardships. Additionally, Tunisia finds itself in the middle of severe water drought as it relies on capturing surface water for much of its supply. Number 6. Argentina. In Argentina, the specter of debt looms large, casting a shadow over the nation's economic prospects. With a staggering national debt reaching a record high of $370.7 billion by the end of 2023, the country finds itself ensnared in a financial quagmire. This debt burden is exacerbated by the fact that it is 8 times larger than the credit taken in 2018, signaling a significant escalation in Argentina's financial obligations over a short period. Moreover, the weight of high debt payments presents a formidable challenge for the country as it navigates the year 2024. Compounding these challenges is Argentina's history of defaults on debt payments, underscoring the precarious nature of its financial situation. Against this backdrop, experts have issued warnings cautioning that 2024 is poised to be a particularly arduous year due to the heavy burden of debt payments that the country must grapple with. Number 7. Ghana. Ghana finds itself in the throes of a deep economic crisis, grappling with urgent loan needs amidst a myriad of challenges. The depreciation of the Ghanaian cedi against major currencies, notably the US dollar, has been staggering, with a decline exceeding 55% between January and October 2022 alone. This trend has persisted into 2024, with the cedi's value continuing to plummet, registering a loss nearing 10% in the first 4 months of the year. High inflation compounds Ghana's economic woes, with rates surging to 30% in 2022 and remaining elevated at 23.5% as of February 2024. This persistent inflationary pressure further strains the country's financial stability. Ghana's debt history paints a grim picture, with the nation heavily indebted since 2000. Joining the Highly Indebted Poor Countries initiative has not stemmed the tide, as debt has skyrocketed by a staggering 7,000% since then, reaching a current total of $54 billion, equivalent to 78% of the country's GDP. Government failures to establish a robust economy have left Ghana reliant on foreign financing, exacerbating its vulnerability to economic shocks. This dependency has fueled social unrest, with protests erupting in response to the dire economic conditions gripping the nation. Number 8. Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka finds itself in the grip of a severe economic crisis, stemming from years of overspending that have depleted its foreign exchange reserves to critical levels. The consequences are big, with high inflation, currency devaluation, and shortages of essential goods such as fuel, food, and medicine plaguing the nation. The country's debt burden is exceptionally high, with government debt accounting for 104.4% of the nominal GDP in September 2023. This ratio reflects a significant strain on the economy, impacting its ability to meet international debt obligations and maintain financial stability. Political instability further complicates Sri Lanka's predicament, as the economic crisis fuels social unrest and political turbulence. This instability hampers efforts to address the underlying issues and implement effective measures to stabilize the economy, prolonging the hardship faced by the Sri Lankan people. Number 9. Pakistan. Pakistan faces significant economic challenges characterized by low foreign exchange reserves, a weakening currency, and a high debt burden. As of September 2023, the country's foreign exchange reserves are critically low, barely sufficient to cover 5 weeks of imports. This precarious situation has contributed to the Pakistani rupee reaching historic lows against major currencies, further exacerbating economic instability. The government's debt burden is concerning, with debt servicing costs consuming a substantial portion of revenue, amounting to about 40%. Pakistan's foreign debt, totaling us $128.1 billion as of September 2023, poses a significant financial liability, with a considerable portion owed to multilateral institutions such as the World Bank and Asian Development Bank. To address these challenges, Pakistan has entered into an agreement with the International Monetary Fund for financial assistance. However, the country continues to grapple with political instability, polarization, and the looming specter of an election year. Amid these complexities, the government faces the daunting task of reducing debt, increasing revenue, and navigating the aftermath of natural disasters such as floods, which further strain the economy. Pakistan also has many other government challenges. Pakistan grapples with political instability exacerbated by polarization and an impending election year, hindering crucial economic reforms. The government must balance reducing debt with funding flood recovery efforts and increasing revenue. This requires careful management of subsidies and development spending to ensure fiscal sustainability while addressing pressing needs. Number 10. Belarus. Belarus is facing sanctions imposed by the European Union (EU) as a result of its support for Russia's invasion of Ukraine. These sanctions are aimed at pressuring Belarus to change its stance and cease its involvement in the conflict. The sanctions have had significant repercussions on Belarus's economy. Financial restrictions on banks have hindered their ability to conduct international transactions and access foreign capital. Moreover, being disconnected from the SWIFT system, which facilitates global financial transactions, has further isolated Belarus from the international financial community. Import bans on key sectors have disrupted trade and commerce, exacerbating economic challenges. Belarus has played a notable role in the Ukraine conflict. It has facilitated meetings between Russia and Ukraine, acting as a mediator in diplomatic negotiations. Additionally, Belarus has provided territory for the deployment of Russian military forces, enabling logistical support for Russia's operations in Ukraine. There is also speculation about the potential involvement of Belarusian troops in the conflict, although this remains uncertain. Given the multifaceted challenges facing Belarus, its economic and geopolitical future is uncertain. The full extent of the economic impact of sanctions is yet to be determined, and the potential escalation of military involvement could further complicate the situation. As a result, Belarus faces a period of instability and uncertainty as it navigates through these challenges. Number 11. Kenya. Kenya is grappling with a public debt, which has risen steadily over the past few years. By 2022, the debt-to-GDP ratio stood at 70.3%, reflecting the government's increasing reliance on borrowing to finance its expenses. A significant portion of government revenue, about 30%, is allocated towards servicing this debt, leaving limited funds for essential development programs. The country is also facing a severe food crisis driven by a combination of factors including drought, inflation, climate disasters, and internal conflicts. These challenges have exacerbated food insecurity, with communities experiencing widespread livestock deaths, failed harvests, and malnutrition. Despite the government's ambitious Vision 2030 project aimed at infrastructure development, it has failed to translate into tangible improvements in living standards for the population. Number 12. Ethiopia. Ethiopia is still feeling the effects of the civil war, which has hurt its economic development. The conflict has led to widespread destruction of infrastructure, loss of lives, and displacement of populations, exacerbating humanitarian crises such as hunger and food insecurity. Ethiopia is facing significant debt challenges, with a total public external debt of $27.8 billion as of September 30th. Amidst the ongoing conflict and economic difficulties, the government is seeking debt reduction and a budgetary aid package to alleviate financial strain. However, specific details regarding debt restructuring have not yet been disclosed by the Finance Ministry. The armed conflict in Ethiopia has resulted in profound human suffering, including thousands of deaths, mass displacements, and acute food shortages. The ongoing violence and instability have further strained the country's economy and hindered efforts to address pressing socio-economic challenges. In response to its debt burden, Ethiopia is seeking relief through the G20's Common Framework Program. This initiative aims to provide eligible countries with debt restructuring and relief options to support their economic recovery and development. Number 13. Ecuador. Ecuador is grappling with widespread social unrest, marked by protests and even attempted overthrow of the president. The country's internal instability is exacerbated by international competition for control over drug trafficking routes, leading to escalating tensions among local gangs and a surge in violent crime rates. The ongoing protests have resulted in shortages of essential goods such as food and medicine, further exacerbating the country's economic woes. Additionally, disruptions in public services, including reduced oil production, have further strained Ecuador's economy and contributed to its financial instability. In response to the protests and economic challenges, the Ecuadorian government has implemented measures such as cuts in fuel prices, debt forgiveness, and subsidies. Ecuador is grappling with a high level of debt, which poses significant challenges to its fiscal sustainability. The country's projected increase in the fiscal deficit further exacerbates its debt burden, highlighting the urgent need for comprehensive debt management strategies to stabilize the economy and restore investor confidence. Ecuador's economy is heavily reliant on oil revenue, which accounts for a significant portion of its government revenue. However, the country's overdependence on oil exports leaves it vulnerable to fluctuations in global oil prices and underscores the importance of diversifying its revenue sources to achieve long-term economic stability. And there you have it, 13 countries that could collapse in 2024. Which country surprises you the most? Let us know in the comments section below. Now it's your turn. Make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and like this video for more videos. See you in the next one.